Alex, thank you for doing this, my friend.
Well, I have to be honest, Tom. You're very persistent, and I was ducking you for a long time, not because I'm like too big or anything to come on the podcast. That's the last thing I want to come off as. But I am busy, and I'm so mad because you used to be in Island Park right next to me, and now I had to come out here and grind in the traffic in Louisville.
A little bit out of the way, right? I know.
On sooner, you know what I mean?
I tried, but I know definitely your schedule was erratic. Like every time we would plan it out, and then I would literally see that you're on a flight a few days before we're supposed to sit down. And I'm like, okay, I can't blame the guy. He's actually like literally running from one place to another, trying to get things done. And I get it. Like your schedule, like even today, something came up sporadically out of nowhere. And you're like, listen, I got to handle this, and then I can come by and talk with you. It's all very understandable. So it's like, you weren't ducking me at all. No. But at the same time, I was like, I got to keep trying. So when...
I feel bad though, because, I have a podcast and it's hard to book guests. Like it is so important. And like, all I know is you try to bend over backwards for guests, but it's just the process of booking them. I just know I'm empathetic to what it goes through trying to book a podcast. That's why I'm like, gosh, I don't want him to think I don't want to come on. So that's why I'm happy we're here. We made it work. So now Pimp on a Blimp with Tom. We're going to talk about comedy. We're going to talk about everything, right?
So the idea behind the podcast is it's a very open-ended podcast. The only thing I ever find out about a comedian that comes on is I want to see you do live stand-up. I've seen you a few different occasions. And the only question I ever ask is, where were you born?
I was born right in Dallas, born and raised here. I went to Highland Park High School. I played football with Matthew Stafford, who's a Super Bowl champion with the Los Angeles Rams as their current quarterback. They're saying they're going to trade him. I don't know, but he wants $50 million a year. He's incredibly successful. Also, who went to my high school, Clayton Kershaw, who's a Cy Young winner, who is going to be going to the Hall of Fame as soon as he retires. And so they were actually a grade below me. So born and raised in Dallas, went to LSU. And that was insane. I should have gone to a smaller college because I just got like drunk for like 4 years. But I did graduate. And it kind of made me the man that I am today. I lived out in LA for a little bit and I was grinding and I actually got some good gigs. But then I got a job working for Cheaters here in Dallas. So I moved back to Dallas, and that's how the TV show catching people cheating on their husbands and wives. Yes, I worked on that show for many years.
I thought that thing got canceled after the main guy, I forgot his name, got stabbed, right? And
that was actually the first season. No, there were some times where it went on hiatus for not that long of an extended period, but they were always kind of wondering, like, are they going to get renewed? Are we going to get renewed? But no, the show they haven't done any new seasons. They did one during the pandemic. They haven't come out with one, but no, it's still like syndicated everywhere. The guy Bobby Goldstein, like I remember when I first got a job there working as a production assistant, we'd have to dub it in all these languages. And this was before like AI dubbing and all that stuff. So it was a pain. The editors would have to do it because like so many foreign countries wanted to watch Cheaters.
Dubbing, for people may not understand, is changing into a different language. Okay.
Yeah, all these other countries, they'd have to dub it because it's like the Jerry Springer Show. The Jerry Springer Show, obviously like a huge show in America, but it was big internationally too. That's like what, makes it a big hit.
And what the syndication means is that it goes abroad to a bunch of different networks outside of its original kind of like production house or whoever owns it.
And the show is actually distributed by Viacom, which owns CMT, VH1, and MTV. And the reason why I started my podcast, the reason why I guess I'm even here with you today, is because I was supposed to be, the host was a friend of mine, a guy by the name of Clark Gable, and he was a party animal, like good friend of mine. And it was so sad. He had a prescription for pain pills. Like I remember he had a prescription. He ran out of them, so he went and bought some pain pills on the street, and they had fentanyl in it, and he overdosed. And like he was like a user, you know what I mean? He wasn't like this first time ever using it, but he didn't knowingly take fentanyl. He took what he thought was something else.
When did this all happen? When did he overdose?
This happened in like 2018, I believe, is when that happened. It's when he died. Maybe 2017, but I think it was 2018. And then 2019 is like right when they were kind of planning to come back. They're like, Alex, you're going to be the next host because I worked as a producer. You're charismatic. You understand the show. And then when the show was, when we were going to start filming, they were like, Alex, the audience is obviously skews African-American, not all African-American, but it does. And they never had a black host. And so Viacom which, like I said, owns MTV, VH1. They wanted a host, I guess it was urban, and so they picked this guy, Peter Guns, but they made him change his name to Peter Panky because they didn't want to glamorize gun violence. And so and they said I could.
They DEI'd their DEI high, pretty much, is kind of what it sounds like.
DEI'd them, that's a good description. And they were like, Alex, you can still work on the show. And I worked for like one episode and I was like, I can't do this. And I quit. And that's when another guy that works at the show was like, Alex, you should do a podcast. And I started doing this podcast called Conspiracy Castle. And it actually, not like a ton of viewers, but the first couple podcasts getting like 1,000 views. Like I remember my first one it took a little while. It took a couple months, but it got up to 10,000 after like 2 months, doing it. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And
this is in 1819. Is this when you started?
Right when the pandemic was starting. So like 2020, basically.
And did you already have like a pretty decent following on the social medias and stuff?
Yeah, just people that knew me. A little, but not a real following. No, my Instagram I think it was under 10,000. Everything was under 10,000. Everything, all my social media was under 10K. But yeah. And like I had been on some reality shows. I'd done some stuff. So but I didn't really have that many fans or support. I don't know how to explain it, but yes, like I had been on reality TV, so like you could look me up. I was on IMDb, but no, I did not have a big social media following until I started making the YouTube videos. So then that gave me a little bump, and I started to go speak at city council meetings, and I would speak serious. Like I was a little goofy, but I was like really pissed about the pandemic, and like they just didn't do anything, and it just wasn't that effective, and like my message didn't come across that strong, and it just didn't hit right. And so I started acting crazy at these meetings. And then the next thing you know, I started just blowing up. I started getting millions and millions of views on these videos of me like singing and rapping at city halls. And that kind of, put me on the map, I guess. And then I just started going to protests. I started calling out politicians to their faces. And that's really how I got a big following.
Interesting. So take a step back. When you were at LSU, what did you actually study?
Well, it's a good question, because when I walked into, I guess they're called a guidance counselor. I feel like they have a more official name in college, but forget what their office is. I literally was like, what's the easiest degree to get? And they go, oh, we know the exact degree. It's called the general studies degree. I was like, oh, that sounds pretty vague. What is that? And it's where you get 3 minors. And if you get 3 minors, you get a bachelor's degree. So I got a minor in communication, a minor in sociology, and a minor in business. So I actually used all my minors. I was going to be, potentially you can do that. And I was potentially going to be a communications major. So I didn't actually decide general studies until my second year at LSU. But that was always I knew that was a possibility. So I was taking the communication classes and the sociology classes because sociology is easy. And then I was like, I don't know if I want to do the communications school. It was just a lot harder. And so I decided to get the 3 minors, and that's how I got my degree at LSU.
So you didn't really have a generalized plan of going into what you're doing now, the podcasting,
no, my dad
or the
wanted me to
production work, or any of that stuff?
No, I knew I wanted to work in television and film, so that's why I did the communications, and that's what I wanted to do. So we had to do some TV media classes, and we did some introductory. You had to do a theater arts class, you had to do a public speaking class, communications. You had to do multiple public speaking classes, if I remember. You had to do
a comms major. If you take speech in high school, or if you take speech in a junior college level, take that and really expand it out into a ton of different classes that root out every single type of way to communicate with people. It's a degree I did. So it's
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So you got a communications degree. Yeah. So, I took 2, I just got a minor. I remember we took 2 speech classes and, a broadcasting how to read class, I think.
And there's a lot you can do with communications, especially mass communications. It's such a broad degree, television, film, writing. There's a pathway into anything. Usually requires a master's degree to really hone in on it, but never did any of that. I just did the bachelor's and went out on my own. And I think yours is very similar to that, because sociology minor, a business degree minor, and a communications minor as a whole is a mass communications degree anyways. It encompasses a lot of the same stuff.
The communications and stuff. Yeah, basically it was just the easiest path to graduate. And I'm a terrible student. The fact that I graduated is insane.
You almost alluded to what your dad wanted you to do. What was that?
He wanted me to be an attorney, and I still thought about it. I actually took the LSAT. I mean, it's been a while now, but I took it when I moved back to Dallas when I was doing stuff for cheaters, and I didn't do any study or prep. I did horrible. I was in like the bottom 10 or 5 percentile. How does the scoring work again?
Oh, it's between 140 something and 180 is a perfect score, and I think you get like the first 130 something points is just for writing your name right.
Lowest, I got like a 142 or something.
No, 142 is not lowest. Actually, it's like
I got a 132. I was in the bottom. If I remember right, I was in the bottom 5 percentile of how it.
Probably got in the 140s to 150s because like just for writing your name, they give you 130 points, I think, and it's done on purpose just to kind of like make it a really difficult kind of like small window of how good and how bad you will be at it. So,
like I said, I was very low. I remember that and being like, oh crap. I still was enough to get into some schools though. Like if you look at my thing, I do remember that. I don't remember if 130 was really low, I was in the 130s. I know that.
Probably in the 130, 140 range. If you did zero prep, because I remember friends from college that wanted to do law school and then eventually became attorneys. Though some of them were like prepping 6 months to a year. They had coaches and stuff because it's unlike any other test you take. They're just like, you can't memorize shit and go and do the LSAT. You need to have specific kind of like tricks and ways of analyzing data in the proper way.
Well, for sure. Like my SAT, the first time I did an SAT, I think I got a 1,000, like 1,020, 1020. I remember the first time. And then I took it like literally the fourth time I took it, I took it 4 times. 3 more times, I kept going up. I got a 1280 and they got me in, because it was over like 1250, they got me automatically accepted into LSU, a bunch of schools. So, and I took prep classes for that, but the first time I took it, I didn't take, or maybe I did like some, I think our high school had a prep class, but once I started taking that class, I got a lot better. I improved like over 250 points, 260 points. So I know with my LSAT, if I would have taken the class, I just kind of wanted to see what it would give me. But yeah, I actually am interested in law and I like public speaking. So like I did have some interest. It wasn't just my dad, but every time I talked to an attorney, I feel like I never talked to any attorneys that were happy.
It's, I mean, I have a few friends that are attorneys and they're older than I am that are very happy as attorneys, but not in the beginning. They're like just 60 to 80 hours of, work for some other big firm while you're trying to establish a name for yourself is difficult. And it's like, that's where a lot of the burnout comes in.
Well, I just want to say, it's just kind of sorry to cut you off, but it's similar to comedy. Like the main reason that I haven't, always like dove in just head first and spent a lot of my time on stand-up, even though I love to perform, I love public speaking, is because when I lived in LA and I moved there after I graduated from LSU and lived there for 3 years, you see even successful comedians, and they'd be on the road and you talk to them like at the Comedy Store or just wherever. And yeah, it was actually kind of a fun life because it's not like you have too many responsibilities other than your family, but it was just a grind. Staying in dinky comedy clubs and dinky comedy club condos every weekend, like it is awesome, but it's kind of a grind. You know what I mean? Like being an attorney, like it is great once you get lucky and you become a partner at a firm, and that's like comedy. You have to, even when you're successful, even when you're headlining clubs, you're still grinding incredibly hard.
I think the main difference between being an attorney and being a stand-up comedian or anybody in the arts is there isn't a laid out path. Where if you become an attorney, you take the bar. If you're good, like done a couple of externships, you may work for a judge as a clerk or something. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And
to get a gig, yeah, something.
And I'm sure you've met a bunch of people that have JDs but aren't actual attorneys at all.
Well, I know too. That was another thing, is I know so many people that got their law degree even past the bar and they don't even practice. A lot of women and men. So I'm not just saying that to call out women. I know multiple people that got their law degree and do not even practice law and work in some sort of other field that has nothing to do with law.
It's kind of maybe law adjacent, but a lot of people in the entertainment business, managers and things like that, a lot of them have law degrees but aren't attorneys. It just makes their life easier because they can see contracts and read them get a better understanding of these complicated contracts for an artist versus...
It's like a test. Like, somebody's has half a brain if they went to law school and graduate.
I think that's one of those major things is like, how much discipline do you have? Because law school's not easy.
No, it's really hard and it's tedious. And that's also why I didn't want to do it. So I just realistically was just grinding. I thought I can just work as a producer in TV, and I still can. Well, no, with LA, I had no job. And how I started getting gigs is I was 23 and I went to Central Casting. I had a friend's like, you got to go to Central Casting. You can get a job tomorrow working on a set, or like even as an audience member, they just need people. And since I looked young at the time, I could do 18 to look younger, or you're over 18, but you can play high school kids, because booking actual young kids, like there's all these rules, there's all these like where they have to have tutors and stuff. So
You can't work more than X amount of hours.
there's just all these restrictions. So they would hire adults. And so I would get a job like working on like RJ Berger and all these high school shows. Like immediately, as soon as I got out there, the first time I submitted, I got a background role. So I just like, that was my first gig. And I worked on so many shows. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I was on The Office. You can see me on The Office, Michael Scott's last episode. I'm in that. I was in The Dark Knight, but the second one, I mean, I was just in so many. I was in, you can't see me in that one. A lot of stuff you can, but that one, I'm in the bank scene where Bane robs the bank.
Okay, you're just in the background, kind of, you're there.
But I got to work on these productions, and then just meeting people. I got a job as a production assistant, so I worked for multiple companies out there. Worked for the Food Network, worked for ABC, just doing like production entry level stuff. But that's how you start. I was 23, 24 at the time, and so I had opportunities out there. But I got a couple gigs, and that's when I got a job offer from Cheaters back in Dallas, and so I moved back to Dallas. And it's funny because my Wikipedia, they like to just throw so much shade. When you work on a TV show, especially like Cheaters, we don't film all year round. We usually film like 7 to 8 months. So we take off like 3 or 4 months. So a lot of people that work there, they either work on a show, or some people cameramen have a day job, And I started selling cars when I was back in Dallas. I got my dealer's license. And so on my Wikipedia, it's like, failed comedian leaves LA to go back to Dallas to sell cars. But they don't talk about how I was producing a TV show. But it's not, I don't really care about that, even though I'm saying it's the way I'm saying it does seem like I care. I don't, but it's just funny how Wikipedia lies. But yes, I would sell cars, and I was working for Cheaters. And so that's what I thought, like, I can continue to just kind of figure out production gigs and just also make enough money on the side to support myself. But I wasn't happy. That's why I thought when I had that job where I was going to be the host, that this is going to send me, this is going to send me in the right direction. But really, that door closing was the greatest thing for me, because Cheaters is done, and it forced me to go start creating content on my own. And I did it the pandemic is horrible. I'm actually not happy it happened at all, but I just did it at a time where a lot of people were bored at home watching content. I started creating it. And that's why I have a following that I have today. So I wouldn't have that following if I probably would have hosted for one season and the show got canceled.
It's sometimes, in retrospect, it's when you have the ability of going like, oh, that worst thing possible to happen in that moment was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me. It's great when it does like work out that way. So you go to LA, did you get a SAG card? Were you part of like SAG after doing all that stuff?
Because I got on all those sets, but I haven't even updated it, because it's funny, when I started working for Cheaters, I didn't know if that was like a SAG violation. So I don't think I'm in, I know I'm not in compliance. They send me stuff to pay for it. So I'm technically right now, I don't think I can.
All you have to do is just pay your dues, and they'll put you back in, right?
I really need to, actually. It's funny, I really actually need to. But when I was working for Cheaters, because you're not supposed to work on reality TV and have your SAG card. It's funny, because when I went to, with it, you're not supposed to, because it falls under after or whatever. It doesn't fall under SAG. They did, but however reality TV show works is, for some reason it didn't fall. Cheaters does not fall under a SAG production. We're a non-union production.
That's so crazy. I would have never thought, because it's been on big network for such a long time.
I think it's actually because we're reality. It's because it's because we're a non-union and we didn't pay whatever SAG fee. So I was a scab. I was working on a non-union show. Obviously, after and SAG cover reality shows, but it's because the producer decided not to pay any union fees. Yeah, because Texas is a right to work state, so you don't have to have a union. So that's why I stopped doing that. So that was a long time ago that I stopped. But yes, I got all my vouchers for that. And acting is the hardest career. And I like it. Like, I like acting and sketches and stuff. And that's like, if you really want to act, not that I'm a guidance counselor, but you should just start making sketches and acting on your own, like doing TikToks. Because like going to LA and just begging and hoping that you get a TGI Fridays commercial, which I did book, and it helped me out a lot. It's just very hard dealing with a constant rejection over and over again as an actor.
So I was going to ask, do you think that the pandemic and kind of this big shift in the way acting has always been done has given room for non-traditional ways of becoming a really good actor by going to what you said, doing TikToks and kind of gaining a following in a different way versus audition after audition of not really getting anywhere?
Well, 100% when it comes to people that can do impressions, because now people that are just small-time impressionists can do multiple voices and film themselves and just go viral. So, yeah, I think the door has been opened much wider now that people can like just create their own content and film it. And people almost like lower produced content more than they like highly produced content. It's weird that that is the case, but that is for a lot of people. And obviously some people, when you're watching some things, you want like glitz and glam and good overlays, but really I think some of the stuff that goes viral that I see, you know, as I'm not a media expert, but a media person,
I think you've got a pretty good like a good eye for it, and you've been doing it long enough where I'd call you a professional in the media space. Definitely someone that's got, you know, a way of getting reactions and views and growth and things of that nature.
When it comes to that, people like organic content more than they like, you know, it's hard to explain. Like even on this, like this podcast is good. There's not too much glitz and glam, not too much overcomplication. And that's like what happens when you try to overcomplicate stuff. Like Mr. Beast, you know, he's a great guy, but gosh, his content is like so complicated. And I don't know why I'm like taking shots at Mr. Beast right now. I really didn't expect this. But like,
I think it's a shot at him. It's you started with a compliment for him because he's, you know, and also what he does nobody else has ever been able to do, and I doubt anybody would ever want to, because I was watching the behind the scenes of the Beast games.
What was it insane? I didn't know what I said.
It was a podcast he did with somebody, and they filmed it throughout the entire thing, and they just barely released it because the show ended a couple of weeks ago, and just the hours that he works is insanity plus 10.
And I actually respect somebody looking at analytics, but how like they analyze a thumbnail 1,000 different times or however the science, and there is science to thumbnail. So I'm just like throwing shade at Mr. Beast because he's the top guy, and I'm not even like hating on him, but I'm telling you, for Mr. Beast, for every Mr. Beast fan, there's actually probably more fans that kind of like something that is not highly produced. So just people talking in their, you know, room. Like look at some of the biggest streamers, Aiden Ross. What are these guys doing? The IRL streams are just taking their phone and going to like a bowling alley or going to like a jump park. So that doesn't take too much production. So yes, there is a place where you can have all the glitz and glam, but in this new digital media era, people kind of like knowing that the person's smaller and doesn't have a big team behind them producing their content.
There's this one guy, Queso. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's a streamer.
He's
Queso, Sketch, and
is he buddies with Sketch?
He's buddies with Sketch.
He had sex at the last. He said they're like, when was the last time you had sex with a guy? And it was at one of their one of their most recent subathons. Sorry, it's hard to articulate all of that. I forget which guy's subathon. So I thought Sketch was I thought he was straight. I know that he did some weird stuff on Only.
And the guy that put out all that shit against Sketch completely got demolished and ruined his own career.
Sketch is funny. I like Sketch.
Because the world came out and was like, wait a second, why did you do any of this? Because he did nothing wrong, and there was no reason to ruin this man's life by trying to up your life. So like the entire community rallied around Sketch, and they were just like, go F yourself for doing this because he didn't deserve it.
Well, but, you know, it's funny. It ended up, like we were talking about earlier, how something seems really bad and it helps him. Like, Sketch might have lost some sort of brand deals. There probably are some, because I know he was, like, doing stuff for the NFL. He called out a draft pick for the Texans at the draft. And it might have cost him some sort of brand deals, like, right then and there. But overall, it got him more support, and it humanized him, and it kind of brought him down to more of a human level. Not that he was, like, on some... I think people liked him because he was humanized. But when it comes to, like... he thought this was a horrible thing and ends up being great. But for the guy that exposed him, I don't really think that guy's that bad either. I know that guy got probably thrown in the, in the loop, but I don't think it's actually bad that he said that guy the only fan.
I almost feel like that guy hopped on a train that had already stopped, where it was just like this woke mentality and the woke mob of trying to like cancel everybody for just, and you got to like the bottom of the barrel where you're canceling a guy that just didn't do anything to deserve it. You know what I mean? Like, it was all consensual. It was what he did, and it was just in a dark period of his life. And it's like, I think you and I are in the similar age bracket where it's like we grew up before internet was a real big thing, and it's like not to the point of where you had gay sex with somebody, but like you did stupid shit that you know for a fact would have come back to haunt you one day. It just doesn't exist because we weren't in that generation.
Have as many cell phone cameras. I always think about that. Gosh, we had like the flip phones. The camera qualities are so. Now, if we had an iPhone when I was like 5, how much crazy stuff I would have filmed myself doing. Oh my gosh, I probably would have been more viral. But so maybe it actually would have been a good thing. But like I said, with Sketch, it ended up helping his career. That guy that exposed him, like, I don't think he's as evil either, you know, or if he's getting hate, like, he saw this guy is famous. I don't know if this guy was on his OnlyFans or not. Like, OnlyFans is public, so I don't know. I think they're just both not that bad. Like, I don't think Sketch is bad. I don't think that guy tweeting about it is really evil either. It was an interesting, like, my point is, it's like, don't you have to protect journalists a little bit? And I know that guy's like a fake journalist, but that is journalism in a way.
That was the one thing, because I don't really usually read like comments of stuff, but like what the main thing that was on Twitter based on that guy's thing was like, where's the actual journalism in this? It's like, what was the point? What were you trying to, like, what was it?
Well, that's my argument. I think, I guess the journalism is that this guy, Sketch, who blew up basically overnight from streaming, used to be an OnlyFans model. I mean, I guess that is the story, right?
Again, yeah, I know, but like, where's the story? Yeah, maybe I'm on the consumer side of it. You're on the journalistic side of it, I guess. And that was the other thing is like he didn't reach out to Sketch for commenting. He didn't get hit.
He didn't give a chance to kind of like get ahead of it or even make a comment on it. So that's what a real journalist would do. My point is that guy, if he was really just trying to be a dickhead and ruin Sketch's career, I'm not all about that. That's lame as fuck. But it is an interesting thing. That's just where I'm kind of at this thing. It's like, fuck, this guy's super famous and he did have an OnlyFans. Like, it is interesting, you know? It's like if a politician has a CD pass, it's just, people love drama. And sadly, like this podcast that we're doing, or take, you know, little kind shots at Mr. Beast, not really bad, but if you really wanted to get views, and I know this, if I really wanted to get views, and I do, and there's stuff that I do to get views, but if I just wanted to get views, that was the only thing that mattered. I could just do drama, and I could just call people out constantly and make a whole podcast attacking people, exposing people. Oh, this person did this in their past, because that's what people want to watch, sadly. People love this, and that's why that story Sketch, everybody was glued to it temporarily. So, yeah, that guy's kind of a dickhead, but he did give us a story that we all looked at. We were all actually interested because, gosh, the idea of trying to motivate somebody to read anything in this day and age is impossible unless it's like a story about, you know, how Conor McGregor raped a girl or something. You know what I mean? If that's the topic, people are going to read that. But if it's reading about the economy or reading about anything else, basically, people just don't even want to crack open a book.
And I agree with you completely. I think we've come to like this crossroads where people want information, but it's not good information. They care about like clickbaity crap that's here today, gone tomorrow kind of a thing. And there's losers and there's winners. Obviously, Sketch ended up being a winner in this situation because he blew up even larger. And the rally cry of not just the streaming community, but like creators in general were just like, hey man, we're with you on this. This doesn't make any sense. Like, we got your back.
The biggest thing I bet was a weight lifted off his shoulder that it finally came out, that he could just admit to it and not have to worry about it. Because he knew that he did that. He knew when he was blowing up every time he was doing something big, he knew that there was pictures of him doing something weird on the internet, you know? So I bet it was actually a relief. Just, hey, it happened and just moving on.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that. I think like if it's no longer something he has to worry about at all, and the bigger he gets, he's just like, well, there's nothing left. There's no skeleton in my closet. I can do whatever the hell I want. And if you're Team Sketch, and you want to promote your product on, you know, my streaming network, go for it.
And he's going to lose some fans, but whatever. You're going to lose some fans doing anything. You're going to lose some fans, so it's just you got to go gain some more. That's just how it works. And I figured that out too, because I've gotten in trouble where I've done stuff that is like not super conservative, so the people on the really conservative side get mad at me. And then so I guess my point is I've been attacked by both sides, where I've had to kind of win both sides back. Not that I really ever win the left, but I actually have a lot of people that love my city council meetings. They're like, I am a libtard, like you would say, and I love your videos. So I have more moderate and in the middle fans, but I've just gotten hate from both sides, and you're kind of like balancing, like, well, fuck, what do I do? I thought these people are going to have my back on stuff. And they don't always, like, I guess the number one example, like, what are you talking about, is I went to a Nikki Haley rally, and I got so much kickback. Like, all these congressmen called for me to be fired, and it was the stupidest. And it was kind of bad. What I said was not that bad. They kicked me out of a Nikki Haley event, or they wouldn't let me in. And I was talking to one of her staffers, and this is right when everybody was talking about when is Nikki Haley going to drop out of her primary race against Donald Trump. And I said and we're on a live stream. I was live streaming that. And I said a comment like, oh, so Nikki Haley's campaign's going to end next week. What are you going to start doing, OnlyFans? You said it as a joke. And all these conservatives like, why would Alex Stein say this to a conservative staffer? And I mean, yes, they do have a little bit of a point, but it was a joke, and I'm not encouraging her to do OnlyFans. I said it sarcastically, but sarcasm, people don't, always understand sarcasm. But yeah, I got canceled by the right on that one, and for being too edgy, but I didn't even think that was that edgy, so.
I don't think it was that edgy at all, but I think the fringes kind of go nuts.
Yeah, but Chip Roy, who's sitting congressman from Texas, was like, Alex Stein should be repudiated and punished. I'm like reading this from an actual, it just sucks because I have a good job and I want to keep my job. And I'm reading on Twitter, actual sitting congressman calling for me to be fired, tweeting at Glenn Beck, tweeting at my company. And I'm just like, I can't believe, you know what? First of all, fuck this guy. Second of all, I have a congressman, and that's not the first congressman. I had Dan Crenshaw tweeting for me to get fired. I've had multiple AOC. I've had multiple for different things. But
what did AOC hate you about? Because I'm sure she's got a million different things.
Oh, they're a big booty Latina. So that's my number one video. I called her a big booty Latina, and it got like 1 billion views. I'm not even kidding. If it got like 1,000 million views.
I saw your big booty Latina thing the other day where you were like the anti-immigration protest stuff, and I couldn't stop laughing about it.
Except for the big booty Latinas, they get to stay. The ladies, they can stay. They're nonviolent. But yeah, that video crushed, and I got some more footage. And I went to a climate change protest on Saturday, and I had a big oil can. I filled it up with water, and I was drinking it during the protest. And I'm gonna post that probably tomorrow. But
like climate change people, you've been to a bunch of these protests. You've had a chance to probably talk to a few of them and stuff. Do they actually have any idea of how they're going to solve anything, or is it just a bunch of just standing around and pretending like they have an answer to the problem?
I've only been to 2 climate protests, and this one it had the similar one, and I noticed it actually last time, but I just didn't put it together. Like when I looked at the flyers, like Greenpeace and some other climate thing, but then the third thing was like the Indigenous Women of America Club. I'm like, that's kind of weird. And then I get there, and there's a lot of Native Americans. So what I'm realizing from just going to 2 of these climate protests, usually I'm always like BLM protests or COVID protests or, Palestine protests, Ukrainian protests. But what I noticed is the climate movement has kind of teamed, from what it looks like, with the kind of Native American movement, because I guess it's about like the pipelines and getting Native American land. So I guess if they team up, it makes the climate protesters more powerful, because there's climate activists there. There's black people, white people, Chinese people, but the other half of the people were Native Americans. So, and the theme of it was climate. Like there was, like I said, on the flyer, it said Indigenous Women of America, but it was just a lot of Indigenous people. So I'm kind of seeing like, oh, that makes sense. That's why they teamed up. That's like how they can stop the Keystone Pipeline or future pipelines by saying this is Native American land. The federal government cannot put a pipeline on here.
Okay, so their whole problem is that they want to put a pipeline on Native American land, so that's why they've joined that coalition? Is that kind of what it is?
What I'm saying is the climate activists don't want pipes, and so they've teamed up with the Native Americans because the Native Americans have certain territories where I guess they're sovereign, where they could tell America. So it looks like they've teamed up so that they can stick it to potential oil companies that want to use their land for, eminent domain and try to put a pipeline in. So since they have this Native American rights to it, I guess they can stop a pipeline. So I guess that's why they've teamed up.
I was always under the impression, since it's Native American land, you can't do eminent domain. You have to actually pay them like a lease and for the right too.
You can just say no, I believe. I don't know what all the Native American tribal laws are, but I know they can gamble in states without gambling. And I know that there's all kinds of weird laws that they can subvert. So I think that's what's happening when it comes to that. So that's why the climate activists are now teaming up with the Indians, so they probably get some sort of kickback, because the protesters, in theory, most of them there, like people are like, oh, these paid protesters, most of them aren't getting paid, but some of them are, like the people that are getting paid to organize it, the people that have to go do this. So it's like any club at a school, there's political action committees or businesses or business, moguls that invest in these political movements. And so, like, even though not all the protesters are getting paid, the people that organize it are making money and figuring out how to make a living by continually protesting certain causes.
Okay, that makes more sense. You touched upon Ukraine and Palestine, and I'm curious, when you go to these kind of maybe rallies or protests, what are you noticing is like, kind of what is their message, or what are they trying to get out on both Palestinian side and the Ukrainian side? Because we get these sound bites and stuff from, small Instagram reels or TikToks or whatever, but like when you're there for multiple hours of kind of like hearing what's going on, what is their end result, or what is the end game for them? What do they want?
Well, the vibe is totally different.
I bet, yeah, less happy.
But in a way, they're similar too, because they'll both tell you that there's a genocide happening, that there are people are dying, and they're both right. But this is the sad thing: is I was getting so many clicks when I was going to these Palestinian protests when it first popped off, right around October 7th, when it really popped off. And I was doing this bit, Gays for Palestine, because in Palestine, if you're gay, you get demonized, and in Gaza, they don't like gay people, obviously. And that joke was crushing. It was funny. Then I started to go to more of these protests, and obviously, if you speak any ill will against Israel, you can get in a lot of trouble. So I don't even want to talk bad about Israel. But when you look at what's happening in Palestine, what woke me up, it made me think this just like doesn't make sense. Is that they actually did a ceasefire when they wanted a ceasefire really bad. They did a temporary ceasefire so that they could go and vaccinate the Palestinians. I don't know if you saw this. Yeah, so they did this. This is now probably a while ago, like 7 or 8 months ago now, or maybe less. But
right when it kind of just started out, after it was like November or December.
I forget when it was. And then on top of the fact that we're stopping supplies from going there, but then America built a dock to try to give them supplies. So other than all that weirdness, I thought that was so weird when they paused ceasefire to give them vaccines. So I'm like, how real is this? Like, what's going on? You want to kill these people, but you want them vaccinated? So my point is Hamas is terrorist. Hamas is horrible, but we need to end. I don't want people dying. I don't want Palestinian children dying. I don't want Israeli children dying. But I'm also smart enough to know Israel's not going to stop. You don't want to mess with Israel, so they're not going to stop. And whether that's the right thing, the wrong thing, there's going to be a lot of people that's going to tell you that's the right thing. There's going to be a lot of people that tell you that's the wrong thing. But I just think it's the only thing that's going to happen now after October 7th is that Israel is not going to stop. So it's like, the most important thing is to come to a solution as fast as possible. But I'm empathetic to Palestinians that have lived there their whole life. It's like, I mean, who am I to tell somebody, hey, you got to go and leave your home country? So it's that Israel-Palestine conflict is very complicated, and it's hard to really have an honest conversation about it because it is so horrific. And you have people on both sides, the Palestinian side and the Israeli side, that cheer for the death of the other side. And it's like, it's inhumane.
I agree with you. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're on either side of it. If your children are being killed, it needs to stop.
Both sides complain and both sides cheer when the other people die. So it's like, I mean.
What do you think Trump's whole idea of going in there and kind of taking over Palestine and becoming, I guess, a force for peace? In his mind, it's a force for peace, but when I was looking at the press conference, Benjamin Netanyahu didn't look too pleased about Trump's announcement. He just seemed almost shocked of like, wait, did he just say what I think he said?
Well, Benjamin Netanyahu, like, they look at this like this is a holy war. And I'm not speaking for Benjamin Netanyahu, but he definitely doesn't want Trump telling him what's going to happen to the Gaza Strip. Just Benjamin Netanyahu. I just from the first thing, but Benjamin Netanyahu, obviously, I know Trump respects him, so I don't think that there's actually really bad blood there. But when it comes to Trump saying, "Oh, we're just going to build some beautiful
condos and resorts," it's going to be like the Aruba of the Middle East or whatever he called it.
And really, I hate to just always just ride with Trump on everything, and because I ride with him, they might as well just do it. I don't know. If you look at these damn photos of Palestine now, it looks sad. It looks like a graveyard.
Yeah, the aerial photos show just nothing left.
And I like to think about, like, how do they fix it? And I have a friend that's an ex-rabbi, a really smart guy, and he said that there was a plan in the 80s or 90s. There's another popular rabbi at the time. He just, it was a brainstorm. He just, kind of pitched this idea of, why don't we just... No, this is before that, but he just pitched the idea of, what if we just gave every Palestinian $1 million, say, and some land somewhere else? Let's just get out of here. And then it would have costed like $500 million. Now it's going to cost like billions of dollars. But I don't know what the cost is. Somebody's going to look that up. Actually, it's this much. It's obviously more than $500 million. It would have been $5 trillion, whatever it was. I don't know the math, but it would have been feasible back then. Now it's almost financially infeasible. But if somebody got paid $1 million to move, I think that would be, if somebody offered you $1 million, said you had to move right now, would you do it?
From where? Do I leave America? Fuck no.
$1 million to go live in Mexico.
No. And I've been to Mexico multiple times, and I love Mexico City. It's a beautiful place.
See, I mean, yeah, and I get it. I'm from Dallas. Like, I don't want to leave here, but if somebody's like, here's one, yeah, like if somebody's
$1 and says you got to go to Mexico forever.
I did work with Sky News Australia all the time. Sky News tomorrow, I mean, I work at the Blaze. I don't want to leave, but if Sky News is like, we're going to pay you $1 million, I would move there tomorrow. And I don't even want to. Yeah, I don't really want to. I'm just saying, and I'm just using that as an example because I go on Sky News a lot, and they're always like, oh, you should come out and visit. So yeah, like if they offered me some big contract or something, I would take that. But
I think the circumstances are very different from because it's $1 million contract. You're going to go to Sky News where it's a continuation of your career. And then if it goes well, you're at any time done with that contract, come back to the States.
Sure. It is different. It's not an apples and oranges comparison. It is an apples and orange comparison. It's not apples and apples. My point is, I know that doesn't make you not emotionally attached to something. I'm somewhat of a hoarder, so I get emotionally attached to inanimate objects like a home or like a city. So I get it. But like, I'm just trying to think of a diplomatic way. Like, this is the example that I use. I'm conservative and I do a lot of debates. I moderate debates. I participate in debates. But
I want to talk to you about that stuff too, because it's all interesting. And we haven't even touched about your comedy stuff.
So. No, but the trans bathroom stuff is like, should transgender men, transgender women, biological men be able to go in the bathroom with biological females? And I obviously no, but we can just solve the solution. It's going to kind of suck, but we're just going to have community bathrooms with full stalls that are just doors that close to the bottom. I mean, there's already a lot of places like that.
I think California and New York have started to implement a lot of that stuff.
It solves that problem. You just get your personal stall to yourself that, like any door at your home, it closes all the way to the bottom and top. But like that solves that solution. So my point is with Israel-Palestine, that doesn't solve it. Just give people money to go away, but money makes it a little easier and maybe make their quality of life better. And then what happens to all the people that didn't get paid to leave? I know that complicates things, but I just don't know, other than giving people what we all want at the end of the day, money, money, money. But other than that, they're going to have to kill them, which I don't want that either.
I mean, if it was my choice, and I don't think I have a choice in this at all, it would be, I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm neither Muslim or Jewish. I'm, Christian, and that's neither here or there. But I would look at it as you do actually do a two-state solution, and you still would put America in as a security council to rebuild everything. But after it's rebuilt, the Palestinian people would be on their own land in their own state. And it may not seem like the smart idea, but it really would, because it gradually allows for both sides to stop hating each other, and they can actually get rid of Hamas. Because they don't want that to exist. I don't think the Palestinians actually want a terrorist organization governing them. They would probably want to have a democratically elected government that, just like the United States or any other foreign democracy, would change up every 4 to 8 years. You get to make choices and kind of build what would be a sustainable partnership between Israel and Palestine. Again, don't cancel me for this. I don't actually have, this is just a dog in the fight. Is just, it would be a way for maybe not forever, but for a very long term, no more death.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, the two-state solution seems like the fair thing, right? Give them some land, you have some land.
And I mean, you already have the land. It's already kind of been divided up for a long time. For the last 50, 60 years, it's kind of been sitting. Yeah, there's been a little bit of motion from the Israeli side of taking over more land. But for the most part, like, you've kind of got, and the Palestinians were actually in agreement with it. They're like, look, give us the West Bank, give us this part of Gaza that we already have, and just let's stop everything here.
See, the problem is I don't think Israel is going to stop now. That's where I agree with you. It's two-state solution is really, that would be the most fair thing, but it's not gonna be fair.
it's not going to be fair, but I mean, the other side of the coin is continual death of all the Palestinians. I mean, the Israelis are not dying anymore. That kind of ended because they figured out very quickly, okay, we just need to up our security and they're not coming back in. And that's kind of been the end result of it after October 7th. There really hasn't been
Maybe more terrorism to get back. So it's going to be just a never-ending cycle of death and destruction. But the Ukraine situation doesn't necessarily need to be that bad. But
okay, yeah, let's touch upon that, because that one's been going on for a much longer period of time, and it seems like at this point there's so much crap coming out about funds being sent and misappropriated, and Zelensky and all the stuff he's been saying on Piers Morgan's show and other, I guess, people that want to interview him.
like, he's literally a comedian that was on Ukraine's Got Talent playing piano with his penis. But forget about any of that stuff. Like, the official numbers that they tell us, and it could be more, it could be less. I don't know. It's hard to tell with this war. I remember during the beginning of it, people were like, this whole war is fake. It's a movie set, you know. And some of it kind of was. Not that it was fake, but people were filming it so they could post it. But I don't want to get into that. My point is, this is obviously a real war. But according to the statistics they give us, that there's been nearly 950,000 dead Russians from this war and over 100,000 Ukrainians. Those are official numbers. So over 1 million people have died. For what? For what's going to end up being the same solution that they proposed at the beginning, that the Donbass region becomes autonomous, and the natural-born Russian Ukrainians, whatever you want to call it, they can identify as Russian, and Ukraine won't join NATO. That's like literally the two things that they're fighting this war over, that 1 million people died over. For what? Like, Ukraine have stopped doing elections right now. They're taking all of our money, doing God knows what. They're taking all of our munitions to kill, Russians that are like 60, 70 years old, that the Russians are having to put at the front line. So, like, I'm empathetic to the Russians that are dying. Like, there's literally no point for this war other than a line in the sand. And, like, the idea that Vladimir Putin is going to take over a small region in Ukraine and then just head to,
Poland and Hungary.
But like he's Adolf Hitler is just not a reality that we even have to worry about.
So the thing is, the guy's been in power for 20 some odd years now. And in the entire time he's been in power, he never made a move against anybody except for taking back, what was that one part of Ukraine that was in the Obama administration. And then now this really came as a direct result of, and if you listen to the guys from the Gray Zone or Matt Taibbi or Dave Smith, any of these people that are much, much better versed in this entire global conflict, they keep saying the same thing. It's like, if you hadn't pushed for NATO membership for the Ukraine, this would have never actually happened.
Well, and you're exactly right, because I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm some expert. You just listed off a bunch of people that are experts on this situation, but I have done some research, and like all these clips resurfaced where like all these politicians that were dialed in, they have been talking about Ukraine because strategically it is a threat. Putin doesn't want United States, NATO, whatever you want to call it, military artillery on his border. So it's just, he does want to protect his country from NATO. So, like, I guess this was a ticking time bomb. I didn't realize that this Ukraine thing was always going to be kind of like this thing that they were just waiting to set off. And it sounds like it's always been a problem. 1 million people have died, and the solution is going to be where, Russia gets a little bit of land, but 1 million of their people died. Generations of Russians' whole lives are ruined, and Ukrainians had their,
but expansive regions that are completely destroyed. That
countries, like, Lord, do you think they're all going to just move back to Ukraine? Some will, but most of them won't. There's going to be the rare few that do go back to the Ukraine, but most of them are going to stay wherever they move. So it's depleted that country, it's depleted Russia, and we've been fighting a proxy war. And when it comes to proxy war, and we talk about 9/11, like, I'm a big 9/11 truther, like, I have no doubt, even the official stories that they were forewarned, but they didn't take the threat serious. But when it comes to 9/11 and us starting this never-ending war in the Middle East for weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist, that we actually created the Taliban when we created the Mujahideen, and we funded Afghani rebels to fight Russia in a proxy war. And then, yes, that's what I'm saying, Tim Osmond.
Man, and it's nuts that we did it.
He ends up becoming the world's biggest terrorist and our biggest threat to democracy. So, like, we created our biggest threat. So, It's just we're doing that. We're going to end up fighting a war at this rate. We're going to end up fighting a war with Ukraine in 20 years or something. So it's stupid to fight proxy wars. We don't need to be doing it. And I'm anti-war. Or like in conservatives that are pro-war, I just think that is the opposite of even being conservative, because we want limited government. We want, individual liberties. Being a soldier, you don't really have any individual liberties. And I respect every man and woman in uniform, don't get me wrong, but it's just going out there and sacrificing these young men and women for bankers and the military industrial complex. That is much more evil than asking questions about, the morale of, killing people.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Like, I had utmost respect for the men and women that put on the uniform, but no respect for the men or the women that require them to go and die in battles for reasons that are not justified. Like, if you look at World War II, there was a reason for actual young men and women to go and die because the world was under threat. But not in the Ukraine thing was not a threat to the world, and it would have never happened.
Dude, that's the last war that we even technically won. I mean, Vietnam, we basically lost. So there's been no point in any of these wars. And some historians are like, oh, it's good that we fought this war, that war, blah, 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 blah. But other than World War II, we shouldn't even been in any of these wars. We'd have more people alive and probably more money, except Halliburton and Raytheon and these defense contractors would have a little less.
Yeah, and I don't think they're hurting for any money anyways. And that was the one thing that really annoyed me about Zelensky when he was doing the interview. I think he was talking to Piers Morgan on there was like a long interview they did.
So he's been on a bunch. I mean, he's been on every podcast, but yeah, I know the interview.
And he was just like, oh, well, you guys filled up your coffers with brand new weapons and all this good stuff, and you gave us all your old surplus equipment, but we're really thankful about it. It's like, no, you don't get to be like, stab me in the back and then say thank you at the same time. Either you're grateful for the fact that America stepped in and gave you anything, or you are ungrateful for it. So I'm leaning towards more you're being ungrateful, and what ended up happening is like Trump kind of just was like, you know what? No more. Enough of this bullshit. You don't get to fucking talk shit about the United States and expect us to give you more money to continue this war that you will never win. Yeah, completely ungrateful.
Ungrateful for all the stuff we've given them. And sadly, we shouldn't be giving them any of this stuff because it's killing more people. But like, I remember we had to give them special bomber fighter jets, and then we had to like fly them to Oklahoma to one of our Air Force bases to teach their pilots how to fly these planes. It's crazy. But if you like think about all of our military equipment, like we can't really comprehend that. You see like Lord of War and like you think like, oh, just give them guns. That's not a big deal. But you have to remember, this is kind of like us. Boeing is a military defense contractor. It'd be like Boeing just giving us like all the older 747s, just giving them free planes, just like these $1 million planes. Like, it's just so stupid. We're just giving them all this free stuff. And yes, I know it's not the most brand new Boeing airplane, but it's still like a Boeing 737, 700 or something. It still works. It's still safe. Southwest Airlines still using them. So we're just giving them these free equipment that is just costing taxpayers billions and billions of dollars, and they still don't give a damn. It's still trash to them because it's not the latest and the greatest.
Yeah, and you know what? If we gave you the latest and the greatest, it takes production time to actually ramp up all that stuff versus what we have sitting in the warehouse and storage, and we can just send out.
It's money laundering for America too, because then we can give them our old stuff and bill ourselves for new stuff. So it's all a work. America benefits from this war more than Ukraine works, and that's why it's kind of sad that Ukraine is letting us do this proxy war, and all their president can do is just go on Piers Morgan's podcast or Piers Morgan's show and half-heartedly, ungratefully thank the U.S. for military equipment. Like, dude, go protect your country. Go save your citizens. Stop speaking at the Oscars or the Grammys or wherever that.
We're doing a Vogue cover with your wife and all that bullshit. And, when she's here, she's at Louis Vuitton and Tiffany spending millions of dollars on buying stuff. And you're like, wait a second. A big portion of your country right now is not in a good place. They have no food, no natural resources. A lot of times they have no power or gas, and especially during the Ukrainian winters. It's not like here in Dallas where we get a week of it being cold. They go through months of cold. Yeah.
What the fuck? It's so stupid that this is what these leaders in Ukraine are doing. It's sad that our leaders in America are doing this. Donald Trump hopefully will end that, but no, it's just we don't have a perfect system, and any government of any country, if you ask me, they're all incompetent, and that's why we have the world we live in today. It's just a bunch of idiots running things.
So, on that note, what are your thoughts about Elon and Doge and what they're trying to do?
I mean, I like it. I mean, more transparency is better than less transparency and anything when it comes to like the government. Elon, though, I still don't trust Elon, and I don't hate Elon. I think now I can speak more freely on Twitter. I'm actually very grateful for that because I do have a big Twitter account. So selfishly, I'm really happy with what he did with Twitter. But Elon, he wants to hook up the neural links so you can have a computer hooked to your brain so that if you have erectile dysfunction or you have like you lost a limb in war, you could have like a hand and control it, which in theory, that does sound cool too.
You see the first guy that got the implant?
It looks cool. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to be a hater, but there is something like satanic and demonic, whether you believe in God or not, that now we're becoming cyborgs. Like we're, connecting with a machine.
So I believe in God, but tell me more about why there's a satanic or demonic thing about what is the...
Well, it's transhumanism. I mean, the idea, it's like when we watch Futurama. Everybody likes Futurama. It's a great show, but you know how in Futurama all the celebrities were still alive, it was just their heads in a tank? And that's what we want. Like if you told a person on your deathbed that actually, you know what, Tom, you can stay here, you can hang out, we're going to cut your head off, you're not going to have any sensitivity, you're not going to have any sensation, any life that you knew before your head got cut off and put in this tank is going to be totally different. It's not going to be anything like that, but you get to stay alive, you still get to watch it. A lot of people would do that. People would say, I just get to stay alive, I don't get to do anything, but I just get to watch. People would put their heads in the tank, and that's kind of what transhumanism is that they're going to probably put people under so much anxiety and stress, whether it's targeted anxiety stress or it's just, a product of how crazy things are in the world. But people are going to have the option to plug into a fake world where they can be a millionaire. They can be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, or they can be, a ninja, or whatever their wildest fantasies are. They could be a dog, who knows? And people are going to run to that and go live in the metaverse. And I think that that's like the harsh reality is as soon as you plug into that metaverse, you're actually like committing suicide. Like your life is over.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. I hadn't looked at it that way. I always thought of it as we kind of, as soon as the internet became something that everybody had access to, really transhumanism began from there. Because so much...
Just the information we didn't used to have. So we're kind of dumber because we don't have to learn stuff and read stuff. We can just like access it at any time.
Beyond that, a lot of people use the internet as an escape from reality on just, how often...
Persona is exactly right. No, it is an escape.
It's like the person you meet in public is never really the person that you would find on X or on Instagram. They're almost always more sensible and you find more things in common with one another.
Right, especially even like online debates when you're doing it over Zoom and in person. People are always different in person. But that is still way less transhumanistic. It is a little bit because we're like merging with these computers and our identity is becoming this online persona, and like that is, and I've done that where like my online persona is so much more important than what's happening in the real life. But I'm just talking about the kind of like the more macro, bigger part of the transhumanist thing where they'll just say
we're all cyborgs. Is that kind of that thing?
Yeah, kind of like life sucks, because this is like what they say is if humanity doesn't go extinct, that eventually we'll all be one race and one sex. Somehow our sexes will merge together. I don't know how, but all of our races will merge together because so many people will procreate. And I do think that that's kind of like what these people want, these like satanic, and it comes out of the Bible, Genesis chapter 11, verse 9. If you flip it, that's 9/11, but that's the story of the Tower of Babel. And in that, Nimrod was trying to build this tower to the kingdom of heaven to go basically kill God or show humans that they're just as good as God. And God, made everybody break off into different tribes and couldn't communicate. And so in theory, what's happening today is why globalism is so important. They want you in this like modern day Tower of Babel. They want us under one ruler, one currency, one controller. And that's why they use America to be a bully for everybody else. Because one day they just want us to be like the United States of the world. And, that is a satanic undertone of the Bible, because the real people that are crazy, and this is why I bring up the Satanist stuff, are the people that look at the Bible and they invert it. Like Satanists will know the Bible more than a Christian. And so I'm just saying
it's like know thy enemy, I guess. They study it much more than us as just everyday Christians, Muslims, or Jews. Whatever holy book that we read, they look at it and they dissect it down into how do I break down your argument and give a different,
so they have to know both sides of it. So that is probably why they know a lot about it. But my point is that that's kind of the arching evil plan is that we'll just all be under one ruler in the future. And maybe that ruler is already here, like the internet, it does kind of rule us off. If they shut down the internet, we'd be going crazy. But that's what that I kind of think of like the dark future, that's why like the transhumanism thing, they kind of just want us all to be able to plug into a computer. They all want our cars on electricity. And they all want them hooked to Wi-Fi so that if another pandemic happens or something, they can just control. That's why like California, they're getting rid of gas cars. Like they're going to say, oh, it's for the climate. Spare me. There's something more sinister at play. They want to have control and they want newer vehicles so that they can have a back door, just like they have back doors for our cell phones and a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was like the first Pegasus, you'd have to actually get a text, open the link, blah, blah, blah. And now they just need your phone number and they can get full access to everything on your phone. And I know that's like an extreme version of things, but it also feels like when my fridge got Wi-Fi, it was kind of a weird thing. And I was like, it's a fridge. What the hell is it doing?
No, but it's like, what the hell is the point of it?
But like, cool. And then if you just think about it for a little bit longer, you're like, but okay, the novelty wore off. I don't really need you to send me a Wi-Fi notification when the filter needs to be changed. What else are you doing? Why do you exist?
To control you. That's why it's so much better to have. Like my new washing machine, I don't even know if it has Wi-Fi. It's a side loader. Do not get a side loader. Because I've had this. Now we're going on, we're just loads on the side, even though it's, most of the time.
You mean the front? Okay, you don't like those?
You like the front loader?
I've only ever had front loaders.
In a top loader, or you just put it?
Well, not since I kind of I guess not since I got married in the last 12 years. So I've had front loaders.
Well, I said front loader.
Because they're stackable, it makes it just easier to take less space in a laundry room in the house.
Yeah, but the newer ones too, they have all these governors because they don't want to waste all this water. So I'm telling you, that's why like an old school top loader.
Just those old white ones, coin operated.
Wash the best. I'm telling you, like I don't really go to the washing laundromats that much, but like those, the heavy duty ones that just spin, those are the strongest. But I forget why I'm talking about the technology. Why am I?
We started, I asked you about what your thoughts on Doge and Elon Musk, and you kind of went into the Neuralink thing and transhumanism and the satanic cult or the occult.
On a lot of weird turns, but yes.
But it's all kind of connected to.
It is. It's all connected. It's like that meme, that conspiracy meme where they're connecting the dots. It is all in a weird roundabout way connected because like Elon's connected to all this transhumanism. He created PayPal, which is like the biggest money process server. Now, I don't know if it's still the biggest, but it definitely was with the eBay and all this. So it's weird that it's like Bill Gates. Bill Gates didn't actually even write the software. IBM wanted to, it was kind of like an inside job because IBM made the hardware and they knew that they'd be the biggest computer company. So they needed to have another company that makes a software so it wouldn't look like they had a monopoly. And they kind of like chose Bill Gates to, I guess, buy his operating software, but Bill Gates got that operating software from another developer in Silicon Valley in San Francisco at the time. So like he didn't even really write the whole code that ended up running everything. So it's kind of rigged. Like he got helped out. His dad was connected with all these people and Bill Gates.
Isn't he like at the SEC or something? He was a fairly powerful person.
Go watch some more conspiracy videos about it. And I've seen it. I just can't remember it all off the top of my head, but I'm saying there's a lot of weird connections with William Gates Sr. and Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger and that killed. There's a lot of weird connections. Like he's not just Bill Gates Sr. is not just some normal guy. He's a pretty connected guy. And then you see how successful his son is, and he's like doing these weird things, talking about population reduction. So my point is, just like Bill Gates is kind of like selected, or he fits the criteria, and maybe they choose him. I think Elon is kind of like that now. And I see all these liberals that are getting mad, like we didn't elect Elon, and I hate to be like this. I'm kind of like, they're kind of right. We didn't elect this guy, and he does have access to the president. He helped the president get elected, and I don't think Donald Trump is a dumb person. I think he's a very smart person, so I don't think he would have Elon around him if he didn't think Elon would be beneficial. But at the same time, I think Elon's kind of cloud chasing. He wants to be President Elon next. I think that's...
Well, he can't be. No matter what he does, he can't be because he wasn't born here. Yeah, he was born in South Africa.
Or so he's not actually born here, but you can just tell that he just wants to be the top dog. So, I don't know. More power to Elon. He's incredibly successful, but he's trying to be Donald Trump Jr. a little bit.
But don't you think he already is top dog with just his sheer wealth, the amount of companies that he has that are extremely successful?
Now, but I would have said it was Bill Gates. Now Bill Gates is not the top dog anymore. I would say it's Elon. And I think that's when he bought Twitter. And Twitter actually was a financial, I think he lost money on that.
Initially he did, but I guess the latest reports were coming out that Twitter is on track for just being this massive company. It's just it's not publicly traded yet.
Tool too. Forget about the financial importance. It can control the narrative. It can win you elections. So that's where its real value is.
Elon's trying to turn it into. Have you heard of WeChat, which is like the Chinese? It does. And what people don't understand is like WeChat does everything. You pay your bills through WeChat. You video conferencing. You can do. It's a platform that covers everything. And I think he's trying to attempt that with X. And I don't know if I mind it or I don't know if I'm against it because I don't know where it's actually leading to it.
A little more fractured, but it's really just going to come down to adoption. What pops off? Like, what do the people adopt? Because everybody has Facebook, but Facebook's dying, So I'm thinking if that does happen, if that is a possibility, like we're going to have to, so one of these companies are going to have to merge or something like that. Because, I mean, you need to incentivize somebody like TikTok is taking over. Is there going to be a new TikTok like all in one? I think that's possible, but I think the more likely possibility is like the top dogs kind of merge together and that. Because
I mean, if they do require the TikTok sale to go through, Elon did put a bid to buy it, and he's got enough backing to actually be able to afford it.
I don't know if they figured out a way to merge it. That probably wouldn't be well. And Meta sucks now because Instagram and Facebook have merged. I mean, that platform just stinks.
I think what happened with Meta, my big takeaway from it is they got away from their objective, which was the Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp thing, and then they full pivoted into the Quest VR and trying to turn and the metaverse.
About that.
Well, I've had every single iteration of the Quest that Meta's put out. It's fun novelty to have, like mess around with your kids or just play games or watch YouTube, but it's nowhere near the convenience and accessibility of just taking out your phone and just like flipping through Instagram or TikTok, because it takes a lot of like you have to separate yourself.
Yeah, no, there's a lot more steps when it comes to VR, and it is cool, and it is a cool technology. And like, hey, listen, I think it's cool. And anytime I put on a virtual headset, and it's like I'm at the beach or whatever I'm doing, I'm on top of a building. But yeah, they put all their eggs. It is cumbersome, like having the headset and this and that. But they put all their eggs in that VR basket, and VR is changing everything. But I think it's like there's this thing they call the uncanny valley, where like they can't like make an artificial thing look exactly like a human, and they talk about the threat of AI, and there is a huge threat of AI, but I think it's more the fact that like ChatGPT can just like middle-level workers, when it comes to analytics and data processing, now you can just have ChatGPT do it in 2 seconds that a human could do. So like those people's jobs are a threat. But when it comes to like the human experience, telecommunication companies spend billions of dollars in order to create software that when you call into a call center, it tricks you into thinking you're actually talking to a human. And there's a certain test, it has a name, I always forget what the name of the test is. But even with this technology, we cannot advance it where a human being can't tell they're talking to a robot within like a minute. They have like a test, and people always figure it out. Like it's like 100%. Like you think some people get confused, but I guess the people that they usually poll, did you talk to a human? They usually always can figure out that it was a robot. So there is a little inflection where they can get it close, and you still can't get it. Like it's still, it still tells that it's art. You can still tell that it's artificial, but we're right there at the precipice where we're gonna.
I think what they were saying, the pivotal year is 2029, when we have the singularity actually happens, where AI becomes self-aware, and when that does happen, I forgot the name of the guy that is like the founding father of AI. He's got a bunch of PhDs and Nobel Prize winner for this stuff, and he was on Rogan's podcast, and he was talking about the exponential growth curve. And he's like, so where we are right now, it's doubling, and then it's going to quadruple, and then it's 10x, 16x, 20. And he's like, we're getting to the point where
times a million.
Yeah, where it's going to just grow to a point where it's going to be able to grow itself without human intervention. And then now it's self-aware, and it becomes truly limitless in its potential. And it's a frightening thought because, well, we don't know what it's going to do or what its intention is. But on the other side of it, it could just be a reason for good, that like it doesn't have any of the emotional attachments that human beings have, I guess. And it just could be like altruistic in its words.
There's a lot of doctors and hospitals where they decide, like insurance companies, like should we use these resources to save this person? Like, are they eligible? And so that's why they say like maybe it'd be better if they had AI doctors, because they wouldn't have to make these like hard decisions, like
doctors never make that decision. You see that I'm in the healthcare space, so I can tell you like how the healthcare space works.
Because I'm saying there are some boards and stuff where they decide, we're like, should we do this? You know, there are sometimes.
Yeah, that I agree with you. But those are doctors in name only. They're not really practicing.
Yeah, they're not usually, yeah. But what I'm saying is they want to replace those people with, you know, like robots in the future. And that's where you're just going to telehealth, where you just go to CVS and you talk to a computer or an AI person, and you're really talking to 10 different doctors. That's what they're going to tell you. They're going to be like, instead of going to one doctor, come to this computer doctor, because you're getting the opinion of 10 different doctors at once.
And the problem with that is it's still at a point where it's being fed information, so it's going to make its algorithm and decision based off of the information it's fed versus something that thinks on its own. Because what the like flip side of the coin, the upside is that AI within a couple of years could figure out all of world hunger, could figure out all pain.
We could already figure out world hunger right now if they wanted to. We have enough.
We're not really.
We just waste stuff, but like we could feed people. That's
there's no money to be made in it. That's the problem. It's so much worse to keep people hungry because you can keep. Yeah.
To think that like even in the most rural parts that we couldn't feed them, if that was our main objective, if that was our main goal to feed people, we could do it very easily.
I mean, yeah, if we started just with the United States, we can figure out all hunger for the United States, and it would be so cost effective too.
Hey, we cared about feeding American citizens more than we did fighting war. We could feed every American. We could have a free restaurant in every city, like an actual restaurant. I always kind of think about this too, like if I did run for something, like what would my platform be? Not really. I used to kind of think you would, but then once you actually go into politics, even at a low level, you're just constantly, once you get into position, you have people attacking you on both sides. So that kind of gets sketchy. And then you basically become like a fundraiser because you're trying to keep your job. You're constantly always fundraising for your party. So, no, I don't know if I really want to be a politician, but I always think about if I do, what like are some of my plans? And they should socialize like a McDonald's or a Subway, one of these fast food restaurants. And just, if you're an American, we all have a social security number. I know that's a little social credit score, but you can go and get like one meal a day or something. Like, you know, there is a way where the government could make money and feed people instead of like spending it on bombs. You know, I'm just telling you, even if they have to subsidize and pay part of it, if that was their main goal, if they were really worried about starving people, we could figure out how to feed people.
I completely agree with you. I think that would be something that definitely our government has the ability of kind of like just crunching the numbers and going like, all right, it'll cost X amount of dollars over the next 10 years, but we will systemically end all hunger for...
I just saw this clip and it was so good. This Davian guy, he was talking about Dallas, and the DART is they spend supposedly $700 million a year on DART, and that only 58,000 people like utilize it. And I actually ride the DART, and
DART is our public transport, right? Yeah.
Train. And not like I'm saying this like I'm some super rich guy, but I do Uber a lot too, but sometimes I'll like park in one train stop away from the airport and just take the train one stop, because it's just you don't have to pay for parking. And I did that a few times, but saying I'm like a person that doesn't need it, and I've used it a couple of times for whatever reason, but only 58,000 people utilized it last year, which was enough to buy like every rider a Honda Accord. Is how much. So
yeah, $700 million. Yeah, it sounds about right.
So that's just kind of the government, and it is good. We do need a utility that gets people around, but that's how much money we're wasting. We're spending $725,000. When imagine if you did buy 58,000 people a Honda Accord, how much that would help the economy. All those people would get new jobs and this and that. But my point is, it's just the government wastes, and that's why we can't feed people. That's why they're more interested in blowing up people than they are feeding them.
So maybe to that point, Doge and what Elon is doing is a good thing.
It's good. That's what I'm saying. That's why it's like, I actually like a lot of what Elon's doing. The jury's still out with some of the transhumanism stuff. And like, you know, we can get into space. People love space. But that's another thing with the world hunger. What is more important? Going to Mars? To you, I'm just asking you, what is more important? To go to Mars and check out Mars and have astronauts go walk around Mars, or feeding hungry people? For me, it's even more important. I want to feed hungry cats more than I care about a few pictures of some red dirt. But people would say, you're stupid. We got to go to Mars. That's human life. That's going to expand humanity. I just don't think that that's a reality, that we're just going to be hopping in a tin can and flying, for a year to Mars. It's just not, I'm not going to Mars. You're not going to Mars. I'd rather feed the people here on Earth than the trillions of dollars that we spend on that crap.
So I guess I would agree with you on the short term. It's better to feed all the hungry people worldwide, let's say. But long term, when I look at the sheer amount of natural catastrophes that we are overdue for, Like if Yosemite blows up tomorrow, it doesn't matter how many people you fed. Pretty much, almost all of the Western Hemisphere is completely eradicated, and then whatever is left is going to go through this very long dark age where hunger and famine are just going to be so prevalent that billions of people will die, and we have no way of actually circumventing it blowing up.
You want to know a place with famine? It's really bad.
Go for it. Yep.
Mars. Okay, they have no food in Mars. So the idea, like, we're going to send people there, and they're going to just be a seed, and we're just going to have, a Trader Joe's. Even if an asteroid hits this place, there's going to be a human, like a cockroach, that lives on Mars. They say it's the closest planet to our atmosphere. So it's totally different. Nothing can grow. We can't go there. So we're going to be living in tents on Mars. Like, even if that's the reality, I don't want to live in a tent. Maybe humans, and I don't want humans to go extinct, but if that's our only option is to live on freaking Mars in a bubble suit, then maybe we were meant to be extinct on Earth. Like, maybe that was God's plan.
Well, maybe Mars is the starting point to us actually becoming multiplanetary and then multigalactic one day.
Yeah, that's what they say. I know they say a lot of bullshit too. But I like I said, in my lifetime, I know that our capabilities are extremely limited when it comes to the exploration that we're going to have with human beings in my lifetime. So I'm just thinking about the concrete stuff that actually matters to me. Because stuff does, I'd listen.
I feel like we can do both. Honestly, we can afford to take care of both things.
If we could do both, that'd be good. I don't think we can. I think we need to actually, like social services, they say I'm conservative. I actually love social services. I think we should have free healthcare. But the government is so fucking stupid. They can't figure anything out. It's like the idea that our government wants to help people, then that I would be against that. No, I actually want the government to help us, but they don't care about us. Like the fact that these prices from this healthcare, any issues when it comes to medication, to services, it's just a ripoff. In other countries where they have socialized medicine, it's still not any better, but it doesn't make sense that insulin is $200 in Dallas and $10 in Mexico. Like, it's just, you're going to be like, well, there's all these restrictions, this and that. It's just proof that it's all bullshit.
I was reading somewhere where I think 80% of the pharmaceutical profits comes from the United States, where everywhere else that these same companies will sell in India and Asia and South America, Africa, all over the place, but they make barely any money. Like all of the other continents make up 20% of their profit margin. 80% comes from the United States, and doesn't matter if you have insurance through your employer, insurance through Medicaid or Medicare, all of it is just coming out of your pocket. At the end of the day, it's like you're paying for it, I'm paying for it.
The prices are different. Like even if you're buying medicine, like not on your insurance, and I have insurance, but like you can use a good RX, and all of a sudden now the price is down 75%. So it's just all a scam. None of the pricing even makes sense. And we're one of the few countries where they can actually have advertisements for pharmaceutical companies.
It's in the Netherlands, I think, or what is it?
The other ones. But listen, I'm all for doctors making money. And I know there's a lot of people that work as pharmaceutical reps. I sell these pills. I get it. But they could have normal prices for stuff and still people could still make a living. Like the dentist too. The dentist should be cheaper too. But
yeah, that's.
But dental is still more. It's so expensive. But my point is, we could have these things. Well, this is a real conspiracy that there's a thing called a caries vaccine that they developed in the 70s, and that it's a nasal vaccine that stops caries is another term for a cavity. It's called like a carie bacteria. It's called a carie. He has caries. And what this vaccine does, that they developed in the 70s, it's called the caries vaccine. It stops you from getting cavities because the bacteria that starts the process of the decay in your mouth, it makes it where your body doesn't produce that anymore. And they've never released it because it would kill the entire industry, the whole industry, the toothpaste industry, toothbrush industry. It would all be gone tomorrow if they had a vaccine that just made it where your teeth didn't get cavities. And when our teeth start to fall out, it has other medical problems. It's like this.
So cardiac problems come from bad teeth and all that stuff. Yeah, it's a huge correlation between those.
Correlation from mouth decay to body decay.
Yeah.
So they don't want us to have it where our teeth aren't rotting out. And it's like this. We spent trillions of dollars on cancer. They know how to not maybe not cure cancer. And I'm sure there's some fast-acting cancers which are actually up in these fast-acting cancers. And I know there's so many contributing factors from the food and the toxins and all of our water bottles, this and that. Like, I know that there's different contributing factors of why people get cancer and how they react to getting cancer. But you'd be stupid to not think that they don't have a way to slow down cancer.
I think they do, but how cost effective it is and what industry and what backdoor deals are preventing things from happening is...
It's actually like, you never cancer or whatever they say, you take fit Invisalign and dog medicine helps people. I don't know if that worked. There's people been fitted.
I think Mel Gibson was talking about this very recently. Yes.
That had success. There's just like success stories. You can go online and look. Whether that works for you, I don't know.
This isn't medical advice at all. It's just the opinion of two people that are not professionals in this.
But my point is, there probably is, if there was one or something that really helps, like, make cancer slow down, it is probably something that they can't patent, they can't, make money off of, like a dog medicine or like ivermectin, because they don't talk about how Nigeria had lower COVID mortality than America. Yes, look it up. Nigeria did. And there, because they have parasites in the water, they all take ivermectin. It's kind of like, even if you travel there, they recommend it at their hotels for guests. Even before the pandemic, they would ask you to, it was part of a vitamin, multi-mineral supplement that they would recommend, that and some other shot. And ivermectin was like the main thing on that.
What's insane is, like, we went through this phase where the entire country was talking about horse dewormer and it's animal medicine. But what they failed to mention is, like, no, beyond that, 80%, I think more than 80% of all human medications are also used in different animals, because our DNA and genetics and things are so closely related to each other that we can cross use.
It's won awards on how good of a antibacterial, the Nobel Prize, and they literally said it was just horse dewormer. Yet Americans have been prescribed it, taking it for years and years and years. So that shows you how the media is full of crap, and they just create their own narrative. I like the set, how you have a clownfish. Know a lot of people have the clownfish on set. So is that Finding Nemo? It was the inspiration behind the clownfish?
I would say, yeah, maybe. I
know what a clownfish was till Nemo. I mean, maybe I'd seen one in real life, but I remember that everybody got one after Nemo.
It was the same thing for me. Is like, I always liked the clownfish after Finding Nemo, and I was just like, oh, it'll be fun to have clownfish. All right, we got too serious for like too much crazy stuff. Tell me about your first podcast that you started. It was to do with conspiracies.
So I would talk all about conspiracies, and I talk about, like, moon landing, talk about 9/11, talk about JFK, talk about, like, the Gulf of Tonkin, how they lied about that as a pretext to start the Vietnam War. Just a bunch of conspiracies. And like I said earlier, that did start to get a following, not like super fast, but like I said, my first podcast, I remember I got 10,000 views. The other ones after that, like the first 20, I didn't think they broke 10,000, but I was so surprised. Like, my first one did pretty well.
That's what about.
It was kind of actually just like describing what the show was going to be. And I did talk about other conspiracies. I talked about all of them. I talked about 9/11. I talked to moon landing. It was just kind of an introductory podcast for me talking about the stuff I was going to talk about. And it did well. Like, it was really good. It was just me, no guests. It just spoke for an hour. And after that, that's just like, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep, even if I was going to work a day job, because at the time I was doing, working a day job simultaneously. But my point is, I knew right then and there, and I'd been guests on podcasts and stuff, but I was like, I just need to do it on my own and talk about crazy stuff that is taboo, that most people are not comfortable talking about. And that's what got me started. And then, that kind of pivoted to going to city council meetings, and then that pivoted to me going to protests, and that pivoted me going, on a lot of other podcasts, like Roseanne Barr helped me out a lot. I went on Tucker Carlson, my biological stepdad, and those two people really helped me, become, or at least get the popularity that I have.
Okay, and do you still do the conspiracy pod?
No, I don't. Now I do a show for The Blaze called Primetime with Alex Stein, and we do talk about conspiracies, but it's more of like a talk show, kind of like a weird, like everybody does their reincarnation of their stereotypical traditional talk show, and I try to do that, but just doing it in a different weird, goofy way. And it is a funny show. Like, everybody that watches it, I know you're gonna laugh, but it's kind of always hard trying to figure out, like you were talking earlier, how I had this video that blew up, the Big Booty Latina video. I went and protested to say Big Booty Latina. It's like, doing a show like that every night, to not keep it redundant, I'm always trying to come up with some sort of new idea. just something fun to keep it different, and that's what I try to do. I always want to be a little eccentric, a little different.
How did you end up getting hooked up with the Blaze Network and Glenn Beck and all that stuff?
My best friend, one of my best friends at least, other than my girlfriend, is a girl named Sarah Gonzalez, and when I was going viral, she invited me on her podcast. She's like, "Oh, Alex is kind of funny." I just talked to her after, and then I feel like I had some video or something. I went some protest or something. Like 2 weeks later, she invited me back on her podcast, and after. Her husband works at the Blaze, and so I was like, let's go. She's like, come have lunch with us. Because I asked her, I was like, like what's the Blaze all about? And so we recorded her show on a Friday. We went and had lunch, her and her husband, and they're telling me all about the Blaze. And I knew about the Blaze, but I didn't know how it worked or this and that, the shows. I didn't know all the hosts. And Sarah's like, just start coming on my show. Come on my show. So I started going on her show pretty regularly. Then she had me as a regular Friday guest. And so I did that for like a year, and just me being in the building all the time, started talking to all the other people that work there. And I started, in that year, I had a bunch of videos that went really, really viral too. So that was kind of helping, that I was like having a viral video every week. And eventually they're like, hey, you want to do a podcast? And I get to record a podcast 3 days a week at the Blaze. And no better place I'd like to work than the Blaze.
What's the format? Like,
it's like talk show. We have guests in studio.
Yeah, because I remember Mike was on a couple of weeks ago,
and like we do different episodes. Like sometimes all the in studio shows we usually have an in studio guest, but then we also stream. I really stream 4 days a week. Monday's show, I usually do it. I'm usually like either on the road or somewhere, so that's usually a remote show on Monday. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, usually in the studio. But I also go and I moderate a lot of debates. Like this week, we're trying to do a Muslim versus a Christian debate. So I go and do a lot of debates. Well, I guess who is the one true God?
Do they differ on who God is? I thought we all had the same God, just a different messenger.
Yeah, it's kind of what I feel like. But no, people love those debates, especially theology debates right now are really popular. And so I do a lot of stuff on that YouTube channel, and I go to city council meetings still. I still go to protests. So the talk show is just kind of like the base. Everybody kind of has to have a podcast, like you have this podcast. That's just kind of like the base content. And everything kind of spins off of that.
Okay, that makes sense. And where's the debate going to happen?
I'm doing remote. So that'll be, I was just actually in New York City doing live debates for a thing called DebateCon. But no, the debate will be remote. So I'll be in my studio, and then both people will be over Skype.
Yeah, and who are the guests? Do you mind?
Oh, yeah. One is a guy by the name of Stuart Nechtel, and the other guy is a Muslim scholar. I don't know how to pronounce his name.
No problem. It doesn't matter, actually.
I've been talking to him. I just can't think of his name off the top of my head, and I don't really, it is what it is. But he's actually like a white Muslim scholar. Well, I'll tell you. Now I feel really bad. Oh, shit, I got this. Yeah. Oh, shoot. Yes. No, sorry.
No, take your time. I'm just curious as to,
Yeah, I want to know the guy's name. What is it? Just message him. The other guy's name he's kind of a funny looking guy. It is, okay, come on. The Muslim debater. Is this guy Mujahid? Yeah, come on. Let's call him Mujahid, I guess. Mujahid, but I want to show you, he's like a white guy.
He's a white guy? Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
It's weird though. This is him. His real name is Kinney. I forgot. Yeah, his real name is Kinney. So this guy's like a Muslim scholar, but he's like a white guy from America. He lives in Houston, I believe. So that's going to be a funny debate. So so check that out. So I do it all. I try to do it all. I try to constantly, I do stand up. I go on the road. And then like I'm speaking this Thursday at SMU. I'm doing a speech, which is going to be great.
What is that all about? I saw your post on Instagram about it.
For Turning Point. That's why I love working for Turning Point, because I can go to all these colleges. Listen, I like doing a comedy club. Comedy clubs are fun, but like the college campus is it's just so much more positive and inspirational. It's just different. It's just different vibes. Like young kids, like, how can I do this? I don't know how to explain that. Comedy club audience is better. You can be a little more X-rated, and there's something grimy you care about it. Going and speaking at colleges, I feel like, I'm a scholar, I'm sophisticated. It just makes me feel a little bit better about myself. And they obviously want me to be funny. It's still less, like it's easier to be funny in a classroom than it is a comedy club, if that makes sense. I don't know why. Whatever it is, it's easier to get class clown in a classroom than it is in a comedy.
Maybe it's because like when you go to a comedy club, you're expecting straight up nonstop comedy versus if I'm in a scholastic environment, there should be funny and also information, and I should learn something.
Yes, and like if you're acting goofy in the classroom, I guess it hits different. So you know, different strokes for different folks, but I'm usually speaking at lecture halls, and it's very interactive. I do, you know, Q&As for half the show, basically. I usually like speak for an hour, and then usually do like 30 or 45 minutes for a Q&A.
All right, I can see how there's like a huge difference between the two types of things. What got you into comedy? How did you end up like?
Because we were talking about the comedy podcast, and I almost should have brought in the picture, but first time I ever did stand-up, I was an MC of my 8th grade talent show. And in 8th grade, before I started doing comedy, we would do like improv in the theater arts class, and teachers like, you're pretty good at improv, da, 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 da. You should like, you know, do comedy. And I'd been watching stand up. I loved like, you know, Andy Kaufman on SNL, this and that. So first time I ever did it was 8th grade. I did it at our 8th grade talent show. I was an MC, and I kind of just kept doing it and did improv like in high school, you know, and so kind of did like goofy comedy stuff. But this is before YouTube was even open or created yet. So I wasn't like filming it or doing anything. So that's kind of where I was started. And then when I was at LSU, they had a contest, you know, like a last comic standing contest. In my senior year, I won it on campus. They had like a funniest comedian contest, and I won that. And then after that, and I would do stand up in college, but you know, just do spots sporadically. And I love stand up. I actually love doing it. But this is the other thing people don't realize is that like if you really want to become a good comedian, you really want to become good, you got to have natural talent, you got to be smart, but you also have to go grind. Like you have to go get in front of audiences, and you have to get 1,000 hours of just hardcore grinding, not bombing. You don't want 1,000 hours of bombing. I don't think that 1,000 hours of failing, I don't think that makes you 100% successful. You need to do kind of well for those 1,000 hours, but like you just got to go in there and just really, it's like to become a mechanic, you have to take apart a few alternators or a few transmissions before you really know how to do it. And that's especially with comedy. So that's kind of my goal in 2025. I'm doing this Turning Point tour, but this summer I really want to focus on my stand-up through this tour, and I want to put out a special in 2025. Yeah, so that's the goal. So I am going to do one this year. I just don't know when or where, but that's kind of the goal for the year.
So what are you thinking for your stand-up special? Is it going to be an hour-long special, 30 minutes? Because, you know, it's kind of different with the internet age. A lot of people are doing different things.
It'd be better if it was shorter, but I'm guessing it kind of like has to either be 45 minutes or an hour, because that's like what a headlining spot would be.
Right, yeah. You're looking at 45 to an hour at least.
But that's kind of what I'm thinking is going to be. And it needs to be good. It needs to be really good. Like I put up clips and stuff, but this is the other thing with stand-up. I love stand-up, but I also have this new social media brain where I don't watch I have Netflix, but I don't ever watch a whole special. I've watched a lot of clips of Shane Gillis, Nate Bargatze. I've watched a million Nate Bargatze clips, but I haven't watched one whole Nate Bargatze special in a long time, probably like years and years and years. It's because I don't watch that much comedy in long form anymore.
I forgot the name of his latest special, but it was top notch. It was so good.
You say so like I'm not as motivated to put out a 45-minute video because people don't even want to watch. I don't want to watch that. I know there are some people that are comedy purists that want to watch the whole special, and I really applaud those people. But like even me, I'm like, damn, I just want a clip. So.
And you planning on taking this out on the road and kind of like really fine tuning it before you actually do the special?
Do more road gigs. I get offered a lot of road gigs, and I'm going to the colleges. Dude, even the road gigs are hard because I have cats at my house. My dad is older, so I spend a lot of time in Dallas with him. So I go on the road a lot, but I can only go on the road so much. You know what I mean? Like I literally travel 4 weekends out of 4 weekends a month, basically. It's just an only child. So, yeah. So you know what it's like. So, and my dad is self-sufficient, but I still have to help my dad with a lot of stuff. So, and he helps me too when I go to town on stuff. Like it's nice to have my dad around because my mom, you know, I lost her, I miss her. But my point is,
when did that happen? If you don't mind. Really?
It was absolutely really bad. It really fucked me up. But my point is with that, because I lost her, I'm extra want to spend time with my dad because he just turned 70. So you just never know. And forget about age and forget about sickness. In this day and age, you never know where you can get a damn car accident. You know, you just never know what the hell.
I sent me an article today that DFW has been voted the worst drivers in America.
Oh, you know, it's crazy that you say that because this has been like this since I actually got my hardship license when I was 15. My dad went and said that he had health issues and that I need to get a hardship license because he's going to have to take me to, potentially I was going to have to take him to the hospital. But hardship is where you can get a license at 15 years old in Texas. Yeah, with your parents and bring you down there. But there are restrictions, like I couldn't drive like certain times. But there would be like a caveat. It said like in an emergency situation I could drive. It's weird. It's like a learner's permit. It is a real driver's license, but it'll have like, you know how the back, it'll be like must drive in contacts or whatever. The hardship, there'll be like different rules for different people. So one of my rules was they gave me the hardship, but I couldn't drive from like 10 p.m. till like 6 a.m. or something. There was a time. So like if I got caught driving that time, I could get a ticket. And I did get pulled over that time. A cop gave me a break. And I did get pulled over driving in the non-time that I was not supposed to, but I had an excuse. And so like I was saying, when even back then, going back to the driving thing, I'd always remember Dallas every year and year in and year out. And there's so many new mix masters. Dallas has always been rated worst drivers and worst roads out of every city, out of New York, out of them all, like since I first started driving, because that's when I remember first noticing it. Every year, go back and be like, I don't know. They say the roads are bad. They say the planning's really bad too. There's like multiple reasons, but because I went to LSU, the roads in Louisiana are worse than Texas, but it's a different type of worse. Like there's just a bunch of potholes. Ours, like the lights like don't make sense, and there's just some bad planning.
There's just too many like on and off ramps.
Just too much crap. Just trying to
Multiple tiers of levels of stuff. Yeah.
Old electrical engineering or something. They're trying to like add roads and splicing wires together. So yeah, the Dallas roads have always been dangerous since I first started driving.
I can see that. Like, it makes a lot of sense, and especially with the influx of so many more people moving to Dallas since the pandemic, it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
So what's the theme? Do you have a theme picked out or for your special? Is there like an overarching idea behind it?
On campuses for Turning Point, we're calling it Step Up, Speak Up, where I encourage people to come and like step up and speak up, either ask me a question or debate me, because that's really how I got well known, because I would step up and speak up at city council meetings. And so I was a nobody. Then I started speaking at these meetings and you got a lot of attention. So I want to encourage people to stand up, step up to the mic, to the podium, to whatever it is, and speak up. So that's the vibes of the college tour that I'm doing. So I'm guessing the stand-up will probably have something like that. Like it'll be comedy, but also a little bit of like, motivation to go and be more outspoken.
Do you plan on doing a little bit of like crowd work with it and audience participation a little bit?
I'll probably have to film it multiple times. So like, yeah, people hate on crowd work clips. I feel like those are the clips that go most viral. I watch people's crowd work clips all the time. They just put out a crowd. Yeah, like I don't hate. Yeah.
And I watched the first one. It was hilarious. It was just him messing around with a crowd of people in Colorado.
I see like the comedy purists, like he's not writing material, and there is some crowd work that's cringe or whatever. And obviously written material is very funny, but there's a lot of crowd work stuff that I like more than the written jokes. So I like crowd work stuff.
I think it's fun. I mean, like Matt Rive's become the king of it, and he does.
It's like stand-up special. Like, am I going to be doing a bunch of crowd work? And I doubt it. I mean, if something funny happens, I'm going to have to film in the same outfit probably 2 or 3 times. So
it makes it easier for editing later on.
So we'll just see if something funny happens. Yeah, it'll be in there. But
do you want to keep it in Dallas? Do you want to go to Louisiana, your old alma mater?
Probably do it in Dallas, unless I do it in maybe potentially Las Vegas.
Oh, big
I know. We're thinking about doing a meetup in May. I'm going to do a meetup in Vegas for the Chat Rats, my fans. We did it in Austin last year. But I might coincide it with that meetup because I'll know I'll have an audience that'll laugh at what I say.
Were you Skankfest at all?
Yeah, I was at Skankfest. I wasn't at the last one. I was at the one before this. But yeah, I was just with Lewis. I was just on Gas Digital going on their podcast.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw the pictures together. But the episode hasn't dropped yet, right?
Yeah, it actually dropped Sunday, I believe. It did.
Is it just their podcast?
That was Lewis and Zach's podcast. And then I was supposed to go... I planned it like a month ago, but then I was going to go on their Wednesday show, but their Wednesday show, they moved to California like 2 weeks ago, so it just didn't work out. But I went on Godfrey, and Godfrey's a legendary comedian. He's pretty liberal. I went on his podcast, and we argued for like 3 hours.
That should be fun. Is that out yet?
Well, see, they live stream it, then they take it down, and they post like, they have such a long show, then they post like the interview separately. So they haven't posted it yet, but they will. I think maybe it takes a week or something, but that interview.
I'd love to see you do Story Wars one day with Lewis and Big J. That would be so much fun.
That's not Skanks. That's just your Story Wars. That's exactly what I got them mixed up. And they moved it to LA like 2 weeks ago. But I plan to go there a long time ago. Okay, my girlfriend, hold on, let me see.
How long are you going to cook?
2 years.
Okay, so it's a fairly fresh relationship.
I guess not that fresh. I love her to death. I'm gonna have to get married soon. She's really the best, and she's like, I've dated a lot of girls. I've dated girls, you know, that are supportive, but this is the first girl that I've dated, and this is probably why I have to marry her. Like she'll go to protests with me. Like we were just at a climate when they threw hot coffee at her, and like she was frazzled. I was frazzled. We were mad. But after about 45 minutes, after we were like pissed off about it, we were laughing about it. And we laughed a little bit at it then. But like, if you've ever been to a protest, I've had coffee thrown on me multiple times. Like, it gets you pissed because you want to go punch him, but you can't because the cops are there. So you have this like, it's just kind of this weird like feeling. You have this adrenaline and anxiety, and it takes a second to kind of cool down from that. But my point is, she's also went to me when we first started dating, went to like this drag queen story hour with this dude. Luckily, I didn't get on her, but he was on a gate and she's on the other side of the gate, and so was I, and he was spitting at her. Like he spit at her, like, you know, if she just went a little farther away, it would have got on her. And she was like right there. So my point is, she's down to do that, and most women would be scared to go to a protest. So I love her, and I got to keep her away from the protest. I try not to bring her. Usually I don't, but you know, she's just down to go sometimes. Exactly. So
Part of everything with you.
So
how did you guys meet?
She works at OAN, which is a conservative news company, and they're based in San Diego. I was guest hosting this guy Dan Ball's show, and I was on his show, and I just she was a production assistant, and we hit it off. And she's from Austin, but went to college at TCU, so in Fort Worth. So she'd lived here in Dallas, or Fort Worth, you know what I mean, DFW. Yeah, basically. And so that's how we connected. She was like, yeah, I kind of want to move back. She moved back, and we've been dating, and it's been a match made in heaven, as they say. I don't know if we're in heaven, you know, the world's not that great, but she is awesome. I would not be the person I am today without her help.
Well, that's amazing, man. Any closing thoughts? Anything you'd like to? And we've had a good conversation, but I know your girlfriend wants to see you, and
But closing thoughts. I appreciate you being so kind and letting me come on. I mean that, and I know it took a minute to happen. No, because this is why I appreciate you. Well, the people who are watching this, and it just kind of goes back to that overproduced podcast, this and that. Even though, and I watched Tom's podcast, it's not overproduced by any means. It's still hard to sync up these odds, sync up the audio, sync up the 2 camera shots, clip it all together, edit. It takes hours. It takes hours and hours to render it, then to post it. Like, even though, like, in the 24 hours of time it takes to get the show up the next day, like, you're literally going to be working on like 4 to 5 hours of it, focused on it. And I appreciate that hard work, you know, that most people don't realize how much work it takes. And you helped me out by letting me come on your show, putting out it. We'll put out the clips. Some of the clips we'll post, we'll get clicked. So, like, we need more people, and I mean this, like you, that are independent, making content, creating stuff, because not enough people are creating stuff. So, I mean, I thank you for letting me be a part of this.
My pleasure. Like I said, this was an amazing conversation. We touched on a lot of cool, interesting things, and I can't wait to see your tour and the special that's going to come out part of that. And if you're in the SMU area on Thursday, go check out Alex. He's going to be, what time is that thing happening?
It's 6:30 p.m. It is at Perkins Hall at room 103. And just go to my social media. I mean,
let everybody know what your social media is so they can follow you.
On Twitter, Primetime Stein. On Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok, I'm on, literally just type in Alex Stein. If you can't find me, you're not looking. And I'm so excited for these speaking events at these colleges. So be on the lookout. I'm coming to LA in 2 weeks. I'm coming out to Boston. So I'm going out to, where else? Arizona. We're going out to, where else? I can't think of it. University of Tennessee, Knoxville. So just be on the lookout. We're coming to a college near you.
And then he's going to be doing a debate with a Christian and a Muslim. That should probably be dropping in the next couple of weeks, I'm guessing.
That'll be good. No, that'll be dropping next week. So be on the lookout for that. So thank you, Tom, for their hard work. Keep it.
I appreciate it. Thank you again, Alex. And let's do it again.
For sure.